Hi, good afternoon. This is Mohan, and I welcome you all to this webinar. And in this webinar, we are going to learn how to process payroll, how to set up payroll, how to generate payslips. Everything about payroll and Kredily is what we are going to discuss in today's webinar. And if you have any questions, I request you to put your questions in the chat section. You can, if you're using your smartphone to join this webinar, you have your chat section at the bottom. If you're using your laptop or computer, your desktop, you have the chat section towards the right side. Please put your questions. I'll be happy to take your questions and answer them. And also, before we start, I request you to download Kredily's mobile application, which is available in Play Store. Everything that we are going to talk about in today's webinar can be done through your smartphone application as well. So please type Kredily in your Play Store and you can download the first app which comes in the list, which is named as Kredily. Okay, saying that, let's begin this webinar. As informed, this is going to be about payroll, and for that, first let me navigate to the payroll module from the dashboard. The very first thing I will do in the system is to define my settings, define my organizational preferences, like payroll, pay register, PF, ESI, income tax, professional tax, and every other component that is a part of my salary, that is a part of my company's salary structure, has to be defined. Now, firstly, I'll go to Advanced Settings option. And here, there are basic settings like your pay frequency, pay cycle, payout date, all the basic information. You can change it if required by clicking on the edit button. And then you also can select the payday calculation. You can include or exclude weekly offs and holidays. And you can turn on or turn off the tax projection and tax computation to your employees. And then comes the PF and ESI settings. And in PF and ESI settings, the system is so robust that you can define PF as per your already defined PF settings. For example, you can make it as 12% of basic, 12% of the entire gross salary except HRA, or you can even add a fixed amount. You can also define a custom formula if required. I'm going to keep this as 12% of basic. And you can enable or disable statutory minimum, which is 15,000 rupees. If you enable this, your PF will be 12% of the 15,000 rupees, which is the statutory value. I'm really sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm sorry about that. Right. And also you can turn on or turn off your PF override option. I would recommend that you turn it on always. And you also have an option to include the PF admin charges inside CTC. This is just a yes or no thing. Depending on your settings, you can turn it on or turn it off. And the next option is your ESI settings. And in ESI setting, there's nothing much to define because ESI is the standard 0.75% of gross for an employee, 3.25% of gross for the employer. You can include or exclude employer's contribution in CTC. You can individually override it or you can turn it off if required. And after that, you can overview the PF and ESI settings that's implied for your employees. You will get the entire list of your organization. If you want to add any details like your PF number, UAN number, or any other number, you can just go to the edit button, click on the edit button here, and you can add all the details that is required. You can also override PF by adding a different value over here. This is why I informed you to keep the individual override option turned on, because that allows you to make changes to a particular employee in terms of PF, even in terms of ESI for that matter of fact. It's not recommended that you change ESI because it's standard and mostly fixed, but if you want to, you have an option to change it as well. You can add these details in bulk as well by clicking on the import button. By downloading the sheet, you can add all the details in that Excel sheet and upload it back here. And in PT settings, you will just have to turn it on and make sure that you're adding the location information for all your employees so that PT gets calculated in the system automatically. Now you don't have to remember memorize the PT according to different states. Just turn it on, Kredily will take care of the rest. You can overview this as well. If you want to make any changes, you can click on edit and you can make changes. You can select the states as well. If you have a couple of employees working in a different state, you can make changes in the PT state as well. And then you have your declaration settings, wherein as an organization you will get an option to define what is the window in which your employees are supposed to submit their investment declarations. For example, mostly it is followed to be a yearly window. If you want, you can follow a monthly window as well. In this case, I have opened my window from 1st of April 2021 to 31st of December 2021. That means all of my employees are supposed to submit their investment declarations within this time frame. Now I can apply this to all employees, or I can apply this to selected employees. Regardless, this will be applicable only to those employees who are having a taxable income. Then you get an option to create multiple components in the system. Now there are base components, which are also called as statutory components, because these are mandatory components for any salary structure, like your basic HRA, your PFESI, special allowance. Then we have recurring components, which will, as the name suggests, this reoccur every month. So these are the components which are a part of your salary structure every month. So now we have already created components which are required by most organizations in India. If you want to create extra components, you can always create an extra component by clicking on this button, give a name to it, and you can also select if this has to be an allowance, reimbursement, or contribution. And you can include this in CTC or exclude it from CTC. Proof required, yes or no. Should this be taxable? Yes, it has to be taxable if it is an allowance. And I again recommend this to be turned on always. Individual override. This gives you an option to change this component's value for a particular employee. And loss of pay dependent or loss of pay independent. This is again a call that you can take depending on your organizational preference. And then once this is done, you can also define this component's value either as a flat value or as a slab value. If I am going to choose this as flat value, I can either formulate this as 10% of CTC, 20% of CTC, or I can put a fixed value like 25,000 rupees per annum. It's very simple to put a flat value. And if you are choosing this to be a slab wise value, then you can define your slabs. For example, if the slab lies between 0 to 3 lakhs, then the value of this component should be about 50,000 bucks. And if the salary lies between 3 lakhs to 5 lakhs, then the value of this component should be 40,000 bucks. So like this, you can create any number of slabs and you can put whatever value you prefer to put over here. But in this case, to keep it simple, I'm going to make this a flat value, flat 25,000 rupees per annum. Now I've already created too many components, so I'm not going to create another one. But if you would like to edit the existing components in the list, you can just click on it and make any changes that's required. And likewise, you can create variable components as well. I have already created a couple of variable components like your festival bonus, your incentives, annual bonus. You can click on the existing ones if you want to make changes. The only thing that you need to pay attention to is the pay frequency. Now, variable components are mostly given on an annual basis or on half-yearly basis. Of course, you have quarterly and monthly as well, but mostly it is given on an annual basis. So please pay attention to payout frequency. If you're choosing this to be an annual component, make sure that you also select the month in which the payout has to be made. This component has to be added or adjusted towards the salary. So in this case, I have selected this as August. Should this be included in CTC or not is an option given to you. Taxable, yes or no. If it is taxable, should the tax be deducted on that very month, or should this be adjusted or distributed across the rest of the financial year is something that you can choose as well. Individual override, that's again something that I would recommend that you keep on always. And the calculation type, defining this component is again an option that you can play with. Either it can be a flat value, like I said earlier, just keep it flat 50,000 per annum, or if you want to keep it slab wise, select the slab and put the value as per your preference. So I'm not going to create any slabs, you get the point. You can create any number of slabs define the CTC range and the value and save it. And likewise, you can create ad hoc components as well. I've already created quite a few ad hoc components over here. Ad hoc earning and ad hoc deduction. Basically, ad hoc by definition means a component which is not included in the structure or not included in the CTC. These components are out of the box components, I would say. So as in when you know how much salary has to be paid or how much salary has to be deducted for your employees, that's when you come and add these components into the salary structure of your employees. But for you to add them, it is important that you create these components first. I've already created these many components, and if you want to create more, just click on create component, give a name to your component. I'm going to give it a name as November ad hoc. You can make it taxable or non-taxable. Should this be added in the ESI? I mean, should ESI be applicable for this component's value or not? That's something you can decide. Likewise, you can create an ad hoc component as well. So I'm going to create a component called as November deduction. This should be removed from the taxable income if there is a deduction. So I'm going to turn that on and create this component. So this is how you create the components in Kredily. And once components are created, you have your payout settings wherein you will add the bank details of your employees. If you want to look at it, just click on the edit button and you can even make changes over here, change the account number, IFSC, bank name and stuff. If you want to add it in bulk, click on the import button, download the Excel sheet and upload it back. And once that is done, the next option is to set up your payslip. That means you're just going to select one of the formats that's available in the system. We have 8 different formats in payslip. You can choose the one which suits the best for your organization. Every component is, every format of this payslip is different. It has different information, but your earning and deductions will not change. But there are slight differences. You can choose whichever suits the best. And lastly, in settings, you also have this option called bank integration. And in bank integration, this is something that I would recommend all of you to start using, because this is going to ease your work, and this is a very handy feature for those companies who would like to do the payout immediately after processing payroll. I mean, regardless of when you do the payout, this is a very handy feature. We are trying to kind of reduce the amount of time it takes for any HR administrator to send the details to the bank, upload it into a different format, then send it to them, enter the OTP every time you send some details to your bank, authenticate it, then you need to ask OTP from a different person. You know, this process is something that we want to eliminate in the HR process. So that's what we have achieved as well with KredPay. So you can use KredPay, which is a virtual banking option given to all Kredily users by Kredily, and this comes at no cost. You can use KredPay's virtual banking without paying any extra cost to it. We do not even have any payout brokerage charges like other vendors charge 2% of your total payout amount as their brokerage. We don't have that as well. So you can have unlimited, endless payment payout without any extra cost. So I recommend all of you to use this. If you have any questions on KredPay, please feel free to call back to us. You can write in your questions and leave your numbers on the chat section. I will be more than happy to call you back and assist you regarding this. But please do check this option out. And also one more thing, if you have an ICICI corporate account, if you are already doing your salaries through ICICI corporate account, you can directly integrate your ICICI corporate account with Kredily. There's a simple procedure for that which we can guide you through. Please do let us know if you want to know how to do your ICICI corporate bank's integration in Kredily. And after everything is set, you need to create your salary structure. For that, I'll go to setup payroll again. So here the system is again asking me to add the basic information that we have already added. So I'm going to skip this step for now. So what I'll do is I'll go to create structure option. And here I will select, or I will create the salary structure that's needed. So I'll click on the create salary structure option and select regular salary structure. If you want to create a contractual salary structure, you can select contract salary structure as well. This only comes with two components, your professional fee or stipend, and then your income tax deduction, which is the TDS deduction component. I'm going with regular structure now. Okay, so it is created. I'm going to name this as November new salary structure. And I'm going to add basic as 40% of CTC. You can change this as 50%, 60%, whatever you prefer. And then I'm going to keep HRA as a flat 2 lakh rupees. And now I will add the components that I have created in the component section. So let me add medical bonus, and let me add vehicle allowance, and I will also add some phone reimbursement. So this is my salary structure. Basic, HRA, PF, ESI, special allowance, medical bonus, vehicle allowance, and phone reimbursement. I'm going to save this. So now once the structure is created, you will have to assign this to your employees. For that, I'm going to assign structure option. I'm going to remove the salary structure for one employee just to demonstrate this to you. Now you can select your employees one by one and assign the structure, or you can select all of your employees, the entire organization, then assign it to them, or you can select location wise employees and assign it to them, or designation wise. You have a lot many options to assign salary structure in your organization, depending on designation, location, and a lot of other stuff. But now in this case, just to demonstrate this, I'm assigning this structure to one employee. I'm selecting that employee here. Then I'll click on assign structure, select the structure, and assign it to him. I'm going to assign this from the 1st of November 2021. So this is assigned. Now salary structure is assigned, structure is created for my organization as well. All other components are defined. Now the only thing that's pending is to add CTC. I've already added CTC to my employees, but if you would like to add, just click on the edit button, add CTCs. You can also manually change the value of the components. This is why we gave you an option while creating a component itself. You can choose whether or not this component should be edited for your employees. So now you can edit your CTC, you can edit the components as well. If you want to upload your CTC in bulk to all of your employees, you can click on the import button, download the Excel sheet, update only CTC, update CTC and components, whichever you want to do. You select the option and download the sheet, and once the sheet is downloaded, fill the sheet and upload it back right here. And then once your CTC is uploaded, once the salary structure is assigned to your employees, the last option is to run payroll. Now before running payroll, before processing it, there are a certain information that you need to validate. As an HR administrator, there are a certain information that you need to know, like your attendance and leave related information. Now I'll show it to you. So here. So this is the attendance information for my organization. These many employees have not logged in. These many employees have not marked their attendance for the month of October or for the month of November. So now, according to this data, my employees are supposed to get these many loss of pays. So now as an administrator, it is important that I know these information. So if I want to make any changes to that as well, I can make changes. I'll click on the edit button and I'll make changes here. Should I give 26 loss of pay to this employee, or no loss of pay at all, or should I give only 2 loss of pays or 5 loss of pay? Any number of loss of pays that you want to give, you can make changes there. But system will calculate loss of pay according to the number of days that is present by the employee. I'm sorry, in this case I've already processed payroll for this employee for the month of October. That is why it is not allowing me to make any changes over here. Now let's say I want to make changes to this employee, Aruna. I'm able to make changes. And system will also show me how many employees have taken leaves, how many leaves are pending, how many leaves are approved, how many leaves are rejected for the month of October or for any given month for that matter. That will also be shown by the system here. And then system will show the revised salary for that month. So how many employees got their salary revised in that particular month, system will show that as well. And it's important that you pay attention to this, because if there is any mistake or if there is something wrong with the salary revision, you can go back and make changes. So system is telling you that, hey, this is the salary revision that has happened for the current month. So Varun, this employee has got a salary revision, which was done by me, so I'm okay to proceed with it. Then you get an option where the variable components will be displayed, but for this month I do not have any variable components in my payroll. And ad hoc will also be shown. As you can see, I've already added ad hoc components, a couple of employees for ad hoc. If you want to add more employees, you can click on add employee, select the employee here, and select the component type and the component name, enter the value. I'm giving 4,000 rupees as this ad hoc component for this employee, and I'm going to save it. And then the system will also show or give you an option to hold your employee salary, and this will happen when your employees are absconding or you do not have any update about your employees and you're skeptical about whether or not to release salary for your employee in the current month. That's when you can hold your employee salary. For that, you will just have to add the employee and change the status as on hold and save it. I'm not going to do this because, okay, let me do this. Let me hold salary for this employee here. For Varun, I'm going to hold the salary in the month of, okay, so Varun, I have already processed salary for Varun. So let me choose this employee, Aruna. Yeah, I'm holding salary for Aruna for the current month. And now the last option is your tax override, and this option is something that I wouldn't recommend you to use, and you will not be using it because system will precisely calculate income tax and professional tax in the system. You don't have to be even thinking about how much income tax should be deducted, how much professional tax should be deducted, because according to the CTC, according to the investment declarations uploaded by your employee, income tax will be precisely 100% accurately calculated by the system. But still, for any given reason, if you would like to change that, you can click on the edit button over here and make changes. Okay, again, I have processed salary for this employee already for the month of October. So let me make changes to Haruna. So I've made the change. So that's it. You're sorted with your data, and the next option is to look at your pay register or your salary sheet. So this is your salary sheet, and you can export this salary sheet to an Excel sheet as well. So for the month of October, I have already made payouts for these two employees, first two employees. This also like kind of give an option to your organization to do the batch payroll processing. That means you can process payroll for different employees or different teams at different times. And this is a very handy feature which was introduced by Kredily a couple of months back. Not a couple of months back, in the month of July we introduced this feature. This helps you to process payroll and even do the payout at different time for different departments. You can also generate payslips at different time for different departments. This is one of the coolest features that we have introduced in the recent past. So now, as I informed you, the first two employees, I have already processed payroll for them. I did this last week. Now I have about 6-7 employees whose payroll is still pending. So I'm going to process payroll for them as well. But I'm only going to select the next two employees. I'm going to release payout or process salary for them. And the rest of them, I'll come back tomorrow and I'll release payout. I'll do the payroll and release payout for them. Okay, so the next 2 employees payroll is processed as well. Now I can select them and generate payslips for them as well. So now I'm selecting them and I'm going to hit the generate payslips button. Now payslips are generated for these 2 employees, and as and when we do this, your employees will get a notification to download their payslips. You don't have to download payslips and send it to them over an email or WhatsApp or any other medium. You don't have to do that. That's totally eliminated if you're using Kredily, because your employees will automatically get a notification and they can download their payslips by themselves. And this blue color icon, this button indicates that the payslip has been generated. And now once this is done, the very last option is to do the payout. Now you can select your employees and hit the payout button, and the salary will be dispersed in a couple of minutes. This will hardly take 2 minutes, guys, trust me. Trust me on this. This will hardly take 2 minutes of your time to release salary. Just select your employees, hit the payout button, enter the OTP, and you're done and dusted. So that's why I said the payout option in Kredily is one of the easiest and simplest way of doing payout for any HRMS system in the country. So please do let us know if you have any concerns or if you have any questions about how to use this payout feature in Kredily, or you can write an email to us. I'll be leaving my contact details in the chat section. So this is about your entire payroll processing, and at last you can also download your statutory reports, your PF-ECR, ESI Excel report, consolidated reconciliation report, your net pay consolidated reporting. Everything can be downloaded from Kredily itself. So this is the entire process. This is along with the setup. It took about 25 minutes for us to complete this. And if you just have to process payroll every month, it would hardly take about 3 to 4 minutes of your time to run your payroll and do the payout. 3 to 4 minutes, or let's take it as 5 minutes. You're done with your entire month's work in just 5 minutes. And that's how simple Kredily is going to, or that's how simple it gets to do your payroll, to do your payout, to do your entire processing using Kredily. Right. So if you have any questions about the entire demo, entire product, you can ask me. You can write in your questions in the chat section. I will be more than happy to assist you on that. Or if you have any questions that you will have to, I'm sorry about this. Or if you have any questions, you can write to us as well. I'll be leaving my email ID.